Hello, I'm Jamila musayeva, an international etiquette consultant, author of etiquette books and pre-recorded online etiquette courses. In today's video, I want to talk about a woman that has truly shaped my understanding of elegance and femininity. And if you have been following me for a while on Instagram, if you haven't been, make sure that you do. There I share mostly about my daily life. But if you have been following me on YouTube, you probably know that one of my biggest role models growing up was Audrey Hepburn. And I thought about the number of women that influence us as we grow up, from our mothers to grandmothers to aunties to cousins to just our teachers, and then people around us and mothers of our friends, as well as people that we look at screen, and how much of a trace they leave in our life. And I thought of making a series of videos dedicated to all kinds of women around the world that have embodied this elegance, this femininity, this grace and brains and beauty, so to speak. So I will try to look at different case studies and different prominent ladies that you probably have heard of from history, from those that are living with us now today, and share what are some lessons that we can learn from their lifestyle, from who they are and what they represent, and in some way emulate and aspire in some ways to embrace those characteristics. Before I start this case study, I want to point out two important things. Number one is the role of role models, or the importance of role models in our daily lives, or in our becoming of who we aspire to be. There is this phrase that says, tell me who your friends are and I'll tell you who you are. Because it's true that the number of people, or the people that we spend our time the most with, tend to influence us in the way we show up to the world. They influence our character, they shape us, they form us, our beliefs, and that eventually affect our choices, that eventually affect our behavior and how our lives unfold. So it's very important that you surround yourself with the right kind of people and you choose the right kind of role models, because your choices of role models really tells me a lot about who you are and who you aspire to be. With that being said, I think that oftentimes people think that when you find a role model, you have to just stick to one person and emulate that person in every aspect of their lives. But I am someone who believes in cherry picking characters from different people. There's something I really love about this woman, and there's something I love about that woman, and there's beauty and there's beautiful characteristics in every single person. And if you look deep down, even to the people that you don't really like, there must be something that you admire about them. Perhaps they're very courageous, perhaps they're very bold, perhaps they know how to enjoy life. There's something about them that the reasons I'm bringing these as examples is because I was lacking those characteristics in my life. And I think some people that I might not necessarily like their lifestyle or their life choices, but there would be one character trait that I really liked about them. And then I would cherry pick that character and try to emulate that in my life as well. So I believe that you don't have to go to the extreme of either or just be very radical in your choices. You can have characteristics of people from different kind of fields of work, field of interest, and different lifestyles, and then be an embodiment of all those differences in just one person. So when I say about Audrey Hepburn, of course, I think I've aspired to be more like her in many ways, but I wouldn't say that I have the embodiment of her character in everything. I think I do have a bit more of a passionate personality, so to speak, than maybe she did from the way she showed up on screen. So there are some things that we can cherry pick, and today's case study is devoted to Audrey Hepburn, who was my role model growing up. I think since my teenage years I started watching her movies. I fell in love with her in the movies as a character, and then I started learning about her as a person. And the more I read and found about her, the more I realized that it was actually her beauty from within that shined from outside, that I think maybe that's something that was inside of her that really made me feel in love with her. Because I watched a lot of different kind of movies growing up. I loved watching movies. I still do. I even have a Patreon etiquette movie club where every month I do an etiquette analysis of different kind of movies, and so far I've done over 50 different movie analysis. And I'm someone who still loves watching movies, analyzing things and analyzing characters. I think there weren't a lot of stars that I really aspired to be like, though there were some very famous ones when I was growing up in the 2000s. There were, Olsen sisters. I still find find them very stylish. There's something I like about them, but there were a lot of different stars. But I think Audrey Hepburn has really left this imprint in my mind, and whoever knows me, they know how much I love her. And I even did a whole photo session that I wanted to make it look like her. If you watch this video until the very end and you're very, very patient, at the end of this video, I'm going to share a clip of a video that we shot, I think about 3-4 years ago in Baku. I tried to redo this scene, or the opening scene of Breakfast at Tiffany's with Audrey Hepburn. That was one of the first movies I watched with her and fell in love. I even had a whole poster in my bedroom in college from Breakfast at Tiffany's, and I always looked at that poster. So I'll try to find a picture and show it here, and those my roommates in America obviously know about this. So I did this little episode, and we even placed it side by side to just show how much of similar I think those two videos look. So if you watch this video until the very end, I'm going to show it at the end. So the very first lesson that I've learned from Audrey Hepburn, and I think it's seeing that in her allowed me to embrace that in me, and that is that softness is strength. I was a very soft person growing up. I was never this loud one. I was very introverted. I was very academic. I would say the ugly duckling. I was very nerdy, so I wasn't really loud and bold and popular. I was very soft-spoken and in my manners as well. And I think seeing her conquer Hollywood back in the days with that softness of hers allowed me to truly embrace and live in my softness without having to change that, modify that, or become something that I'm not. And I think you see that softness not just in the way that she walks, not just in the way that she, talks, in the way she smiles, in the way she is has this interviews that there are clips of her interviews with interviewers asking her all kinds of questions, and you'll see that no matter what kind of a provocative question she gets asked, she always remains in this very soft nature that she has. She pretty much never really is aggressively defensive. She's polite, she has boundaries, but at the same time she's super soft. And I think seeing that softness is a power rather than a weakness, which I think most of social media now and everything that we're been fed now, that you have to be aggressive, go get it, whatever you need, which I think it's important to be courageous and bold, but there's a difference between being really loud and aggressive about it and rather being soft yet still being courageous and aspiring to do things that you wish you could do. So softness, I think in her example, is probably the biggest takeaway lesson that I took about elegance and femininity. The second important takeaway lesson from Audrey Hepburn, I think, has to do with the way that she walked, the way that she sat, the way that she just was present, and that has to do a lot with her good posture that came from her ballet trainings early on. She aspired to become a professional ballerina, but because of the wartime malnutrition, she wasn't able to pursue the professional ballet. But that early training of ballet really gave her this really good posture, very good body language. She walked like a swan almost. It felt like she was gliding and not like walking on the floor. If you watch a lot of her videos like A Roman Holiday, Breakfast at Tiffany's, you can see how it almost feels like she's floating. And I think that has to do with ballet training and the way that she gestures with her hands, not just in cinema but also in her interviews that she did, which I got to see a few clips online. So I analyzed her body language and I saw that her speech and her body language were always very congruent. You could see that the way that she was talking and the way that her hand gestures are complementing her speech was really strong. And I think so a graceful body language is the one big takeaway lesson that I see in looking at her. And some of us, maybe had an early dance training, which I personally didn't. I never went to ballet, never did professional dancing. But growing up, I have picked up dancing for the past few years. And apart from that, I think just working out in the gym and making sure that you have a good core and you have a good spine, working on those muscles can really help you improve your posture. I've actually done 2 different videos on having a good posture on my YouTube channel. Make sure that you check out those videos that can help you improve your posture. So I think when we talk about elegance for both genders, men and women, and when we talk about femininity, we think I think the one thing that comes to my mind when you talk about it and I visually think of it, then it's definitely a good posture. A good posture can uplift any kind of a bad attire, and a bad posture can ruin any kind of expensive and like haute couture attire. So make sure that you invest in your good posture, because that is going to be the statement you make as you walk into any room. The third element of I think not just elegance and femininity, but just being a well-rounded person, which I think is the one thing that I really admired about her. Not one thing, one of many things that I really admired about her, is the fact that she was multilingual. She spoke Italian, French, Dutch, English, I think Spanish, I might be wrong, but she was very fluent in these languages. Growing up in Belgium, of course, she was exposed to those European languages, but the fact that she was able to pick them up and maintain them throughout the years of being in Hollywood, I think that's so admirable. And I am someone who I think got inspired slightly also with her, knowing so many languages, because the point is not just in having the skills to learn a new language, but it's in the discipline that it takes to learn a new language, which I think her ballet training also taught her. Also, learning languages makes you more open-minded and curious about the world. It makes you understand different cultures, because you understand their language, you're able to better understand the culture, and with that understanding comes this kindness and softness and open-mindedness and acceptance. I find that people that are most egocentric in their culture, so they think their culture is supreme to everything else, are usually the ones that do not know any other language but that of their own. And I'm someone who's an advocate of learning as many languages as you can, at least 2, better 3, because it opens up your mind in many ways. I think I started appreciating cultures a lot more, and got interested more in cultures through languages. Also, one thing I noticed about myself, and I think this I saw in a lot of videos also online, is that different languages open up your different personality. I'm very different in when I speak Azerbaijani and how I feel inside versus when I speak English. To answer honestly, I think I feel more free, I feel more relaxed, I feel more open and friendly when I speak English, and I feel more reserved and more conservative and more traditional when I speak Azerbaijani. And it's different kind of personalities that show up, and different kind also of concepts that are instilled in me because of these different languages. There are things that are only concepts that are understandable in Azerbaijani. There are also concepts that are only understandable in English or Russian or French or Italian or whatever language. And by understanding these concepts, your mind just opens up to the ways of living, to the world overall. So her learning or knowing languages is something that I think helped her to be a more elegant woman, or a more kind-hearted woman, I would say. So if there's one thing that you can take from her, if nothing else, then learning languages or learning new skills is something that you have to look for. The fourth important lesson, and I think I didn't know this up until a few years back when I stumbled upon this interview she did, was the fact that she was very good at being humble yet accepting admiration. She was very good at accepting compliments without having the need to ping pong them and without having to brag about it. She knew what she was good at. She also knew what she was not so good at, because in many interviews she notes how, she didn't think she would be fit for Hollywood based on her stature and things like that. So she knew that she was not very different from everyone else. And at the time it wasn't maybe her strength, because Hollywood had different kind of beauty standards. But at the same time, she knew what she was good at, and she really affirmed that in herself. And I love how she was so graceful at accepting compliments. And that's one of the things that we teach in etiquette, is that it's important when someone gives you compliments, when someone tells you something nice about you, is that you're able to accept it with a beautiful thank you and just a smile on your face, without having to immediately respond with another compliment back at them, feeling like it's a competition. And this is called ping pong. So they say a compliment, you say back, and they feel the urge to return to you. So do not throw compliments as confetti. Accept compliments with grace, and don't feel the need, the urge to return the compliment unless you really feel that need and you feel very sincere about what you have to say. And when you do pay compliments, an etiquette lesson here is that make sure that the compliment is very specific. It's not general. It's not like, oh, and you look nice. You could say, oh, I love your haircut. It looks so nice on you. Something that's very, very particular. Just came to my head right now, this example, but it could be anything. But if you genuinely feel that way, if it's very specific, then the person who receives that compliment will know that you actually meant it for them and not that you're telling it back at them because you feel the urge to respond. Of course, I can't talk about Audrey Hepburn without mentioning her style. I am in love. I think if there's one style icon I was the most inspired by was for sure Audrey Hepburn. I find her fashion taste so timeless. When looking at her pictures, I remember in early 2000s, again in 2010, 15, and now in 2026, almost 2030, no matter what time I look at, her pictures look timeless. It looks like she just is wearing something that matches our time and era. And I think the trick with her personal style was that she was more focused on the fit of the item rather than what was fashionable in the day and the time. Because the pants that she wore, the sweaters that she wore, the dresses that she wore, they were so well fitted to her body type, and she knew exactly how to wear what in order to have these right proportions. If you look at her pictures where she was doing ballet, she's not too tall. She has a very slim upper body, and she doesn't have an hourglass figure. She has rather bigger legs than she has her upper body because of the ballet training. And then she knew how to wear the right kind of sweaters and the right kind of shirts, and she balanced it out really well with the cuts, A-line cuts of her dresses and skirts. So I think the most important thing to learn about personal style is finding your fit, finding what looks good on your body, and also then tailoring the clothes to make it fit you rather than you trying to fit in the clothes, because it's you who is supposed to be wearing the clothes and not clothes that should be using you as a hanger almost. Because I see a lot of people that are walking as if they're to display the clothes and not the other way around. Another thing that I learned also from her fashion is that she was very focused on the good quality. She worked a lot with Givenchy, and she also wore kind of monotone things, so blacks and navies and whites and creams, and so she almost had this what we now call timeless wardrobe, so staple pieces, good fitting and of a neutral colors, and she was good at just mixing and matching those. It was this kind of a style that everyone now calls effortless chic, when it's chic because the way she carries it, but it's also chic because it's not abiding by any sort of or conforms to any kind of trends of the day. To me, if I were to emulate one person in my style, that's definitely going to be her. But unlike her, I think I've also incorporated a lot of floral prints in my summer dresses, in my wardrobe for spring and summer, and this is something I didn't really see a lot in her. So again, for me, when I'm looking at a role model, I'm cherry picking certain things and then adding some things that resonate very much with me. I love wearing floral dresses in the summer, which might not be timeless, but it makes me feel good, and thus I wear them. The next important element of elegance, and it doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman, I think is privacy. Audrey Hepburn was very much known for the fact that she loved her privacy. She was very private in her life, in her personal life. I think that was very difficult back in the days in Hollywood when, the notion that a Hollywood star almost had to share what their life was about. And there's the Marilyn Monroe. We know a lot about her scandal and her personal life. And then there's Audrey, who we know now that she was twice married. She had a miscarriage. She had sons. And some people, obviously, she talked about them in interviews, but she was very respectful of her private life. She wasn't oversharing things. And I think with that privacy comes this boundary setting that in a way creates this beautiful distance between who you are as a person and your personal life and what you do for work. So I think being private is a major part of being elegant. I think oversharing is something that has for some reason become super trendy. People feel the need to overshare everything, starting from the lingerie they're wearing, going up to what their family feud is all about. And I think I'm someone who doesn't really appreciate that, and I know that in certain ways, by sharing your personal story, you can help to uplift others, be an example for them. I'm all for that, but I'm against things that are there to create drama and to create like counts and to create this popularity or virality based on the personal drama that one is going through. So from Audrey, we can learn that we can work, we can be a public person, we can let our professional work speak volumes for who we are and our talent and our gift, but still remain private in our personal life. The next very important element of Audrey Hepburn's life that I think speaks volumes to her femininity, her elegance, is the fact that she was a very kind-hearted person. I think that kindness can be felt through her eyes. You could actually see that kindness in her eyes when she was doing these interviews. But it also is a fact now known that she was ambassador of UNICEF, and she traveled the world to poorest countries and helped kids in need. I also, when I look at these pictures, I realize these were not done for the fame. These were not done for the gram, is how people say it these days. I think in today's world where people do things to share it on social media, it's very hard to distinguish whether the motif was to show how kind they are, whereas it was actually coming from their heart. But at a time when Audrey Hepburn was a UNICEF ambassador and she was traveling the world and being this spokesperson for children, I think she did it because she truly cared. And you could see it in her eyes, this warmth, this kindness, this smile on her eyes. Smile on eyes is what is, I think, important, because a genuine smile comes from the eyes. And in a lot of many other interviews where she spoke about, how kindness is so important, how she was such an advocate for it, I think I cannot see a beauty in a person if they don't have a kind heart. I think the bottom line of being an elegant person, of someone who people feel drawn to, people feel aspire to be around, is a person who has a genuinely kind heart. And there's a difference between having a kind heart and being just nice. I think people oftentimes confuse kindness with niceness, and they think someone who is just nice and overshares and tells them everything and is like nice to their face is a kind person. But I find in my life that most people that are truly the kindness at heart rarely seem nice at the first glance, in a way that they kind of seem a bit cold. You might find them reserved, you might find them not nice to your face, but actually these people are deeply kind at heart, versus people that are super nice and very bubbly and all over you and compliment you and sugarcoat everything. These are people that are usually not really kind at heart. Again, don't take my words like as they are, because this comes from my personal experience, but the older I get, the more I observe life, that's what I get to see. So don't be afraid not to be nice, be afraid not to be kind. The next element of elegance and femininity that I personally took away and got inspired from Audrey is the fact that she was someone who was interested in many different things. She loved cooking, she loved reading books, she loved gardening. She was someone who nurtured a very beautiful life. I remember seeing her summer house in Geneva, and I think it's in Switzerland. It was up on a sale, and I even sent that picture to my friend, and I said, I hope one day we have enough money to buy this house together and retire there. I would have loved to live in that villa, or actually, if I were to make my own villa, it would probably look exactly like that. I think she was a very nurturing woman, and she loved to create this beauty around her, not just in the way that she dressed and in the way she carried herself, but really around her. And this is something that I aspire to do in my daily life. There are some things, of course, that I haven't yet attained, that I, for example, that villa is with my own garden that I aspire one day to have. But from the daily things that I already have at hand, from the way I have my coffee, from the way I make my tea, these daily little habits that I can elevate in any way, I try to do it, because elevating them to a new scale of elegance makes me feel more elegant from inside, and makes me feel like I can beautify my life, and that's how I want my life to be. I want it to be beautiful, and then I'm in charge of my life and everything that I do on a daily basis. And why not start with the small things that I can control, and hopefully that will trickle down to things that, you know, are not at my immediate control yet. So nurturing a beautiful life is something we can all learn from Audrey. And I also wanted to let you know that I have done a few videos on how to elevate your daily life to be more elegant. I have a whole playlist dedicated to elegance, so you can check it out after watching this video if you're really interested in learning more about how to live a more elegant life. The next big important lesson about femininity and elegance that we can learn from her, and again, when I say elegant, I just don't necessarily just mean women. I think men can be very elegant as well, and this is something that they can embrace as well, and that is, if I have male viewers right now watching this channel, and that is speaking beautifully. I think there was a quote that said, "Speak so I can see you," and the point of this quote is that when someone speaks, you can tell a lot about their character, who they are, what their values are, and it's not just about the voice or the way their voice sounds or the tone of it, but rather also the choice of words that they use, the way they phrase their thoughts, and what kind of words they use to describe other people as well as themselves. So I think that speaking beautifully is something we can all develop, and with that we can, with beautiful speech, we can improve each other's lives, improve our own lives. So when I looked at some of the interviews she has done, she was very selective in the kind of words that she used to express herself. Her vocabulary was very beautiful, very rich. She never used vulgar words. She avoided these words that I'm currently using, say which I think also comes from the fact that English is not my native language, but I do consider it by now native, but I still do that, unfortunately. She was also a very good listener. She listened well before she responded. She never rushed into answering any questions that the journalist might have asked her. She would take the pause, she would think about it, and she would respond in a very calm tone, very controlled, and even to some questions that might seem a bit intrusive, like about her personal life, or if she was in love, or things like that. And she was very good at responding without giving too much information. So I think if something that you want to focus on right now that you can control and doesn't require a lot of investment, that is, apart from having good posture, that you can learn from my videos, is also having a good vocabulary, enriching your vocabulary. Reading a lot helps, watching good kind of movies helps, and making sure that you use all these new words in your daily vocabulary so you will not forget them and be able to use them in the right context. So enriching your vocabulary and speaking beautifully is something that requires a little investment but has a big return. And the final takeaway lesson from Audrey that we can all learn about being just a good human is that she really believed that beauty came from within. And I actually want to quote her on this, because she said, "The beauty of a woman is not in the clothes she wears. The true beauty of a woman is reflected in her soul." And I think she was not just saying things for sake of saying them. She was actually an embodiment of what she was saying. You could see in the way that she was cultivating her life, in the way that she was showing up in her actions, that she really was nurturing that beauty from within, that as she aged, and this is the time when there was no Botox, no all these cosmetic things to keep you young and youthful, these expensive creams and masks, as she aged, she had this beauty on her face that could never be replaced by any cosmetic surgery or cosmetic procedure. Yes, there are things to keep you youthful, but it's the light in your eyes, it's the light on your face that cannot be made with medical things. It's the light that comes from within to your eyes and your face that shines. And when you look at her videos when she was much older and she gave interviews, you could see that joyfulness, that almost childish spark in her eyes that she was able to keep all these years on her face, despite of being in a very difficult industry, I would say, at the time in Hollywood, where a lot of things were scrutinized. I think more criteria was there in place, not like it's right now. So I think that she truly meant what she said, that you have to cultivate the beauty from within. And I'm someone who believes that, you know, beauty on the outer face is something we notice at the first glance, but then we get used to that face, and it's the beauty from the outside in that shines through in the character, in the way the person shows up, is the one that stands the test of time. And sometimes the people that you might not think are good looking at first might start looking very good looking to you in your eyes over the time as you get to know them better, which is why it's very true that beauty is in the eye of a beholder. So, you know, if you can look at the person through the eyes when you see their beautiful character, you're going to look at different things, and you're going to find that beauty you're looking for. So with that being said, the final thought, I think, from this long video on Audrey Hepburn, using her as a case study for understanding elegance, femininity, and how we can just be a better human, I think is the fact that you know, we live in this world that's so temporary, and the name that we leave after is living longer than what the life that we've had on this earth. Not a lot of people get lucky to have their names imprinted on history books or left in history, but if you just live your life thinking that your name is going to stay forever, I think you're going to live much more attentively, and you're going to be more accountable to your actions. So speaking beautifully is not just about in your daily interactions, but also speaking beautifully online, not hurting other people's feeling, not maliciously or ill-intentionally trying to ruin someone's mood, trying to be more kind to yourself and to others, taking care of your body, having a good posture, dressing well to fit your body type, not trying to rush for trends and trying to create your own style, just being kind to everyone around, nurturing a beautiful life. All these things we can learn from Audrey, but also these are things we can learn from people that surround us. I'm sure there's someone at your home that has these characteristics, and perhaps other better characteristics as well, that you can cherry pick and try to incorporate in your daily life, because at the end of the day, we're a sum of all the people that we aspire to be like, and the people that we surround ourselves with. Thank you so much for watching this video until the very end. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, give the thumbs up.